Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar session by Communicate. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. My name is Manab, and I'll be your host for the session. So without any further ado, introducing our guest speaker, Ian Golding. We have Ian with us, who is joining us all the way from United Kingdom. Thanks, Ian. Ian is a global customer experience specialist and a certified customer experience professional. He has worked across multiple industries, including retail, financial services, logistics, pharmaceuticals, and telecom. Ian has deployed customer experience tools and methodologies in over 55 countries around the world. He is also an author and internationally renowned speaker. But what he loves the most is his passion for sharing experience in the world of customer experience, and how he helps organizations operationalize the knowledge of CX, how they help them achieve that. Ian, welcome to the session, and thank you so much for taking your precious time out today to share your experiences with us. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. It's a pleasure, Manab. Thank you so much for inviting me. Any excuse to ramble on about the subject of customer experience, I will take it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ian. Cool. So the topic of this session is crafting experiences with AI, crafting customer experiences with AI. So I just want to begin with the big question: how are you seeing this whole thing about AI? How is it changing the industry? What are the latest things that you have heard?
Well, you'd have to be living in a cave if you hadn't seen the explosion of AI globally. And ever since the media got hold of ChatGPT at the end of 2022, if you can believe that, the AI has just been the primary focus, I think, for all organizations around the world. How can they understand it? How can they leverage it? How can it help us to move forward? And the question is it something that you need to understand for the future, or is it something that needs to be understood right now? Because as we know, one of the challenges that most organizations face is that they take a long time to change, to adapt to new innovation. And the thing with AI is it as new as people think? And do you have the time to wait? Do you have the time to wait to see what might happen? Or is it already happening? And as a result, if we don't get to grips with it, potentially legacy organizations will be left behind very quickly. So I think it is here to stay. It is not a fad, like many things. I think it's quite interesting. We were obsessed for quite a long time globally with agile. Now, agile is still there, but no one talks about agile anymore. Everyone's talking about AI. But is AI going to go away? And I think this is something that will never go away. And I think it's been a part of our lives actually for probably 15 years or so, maybe even longer. But it is now just something that we have to be very conscious of. So having a conversation about it today is very important.
Right. From what I understand, it's a very long-term, long-shot game. Companies who have been investing it for a very long time and did not get the fruits out of it, but now they are starting to see results out of it.
Well, I'm sure we'll explore this because it's all down to motivation. What is the motivation for leveraging AI? And if we're thinking of it as the cash cow or the golden bullet, as some like to say, that might be an issue. But let's not expand on that. Let's potentially see how we can evolve that conversation as you start grilling me with your questions.
Agreed.
Cool.
Cool.
But I think that there is undoubtedly a huge opportunity here if AI is adopted in the right way.
Awesome. Cool. So starting with our questions, so we have around 8 to 9 questions for you, Ian, today. I'll just bring up the questions for the audiences to read too. Okay, beginning with the first one, how can AI be leveraged to enhance various touch points in the customer journey, such as customer acquisition, onboarding, support, and retention? What's your take on that?
So very good question, which is the perfect segue to what we've just said. And I think before I answer the question, I just want to clarify that part of the problem is that many organizations don't really understand what AI actually is. Now, I delivered a workshop a couple of weeks ago for a very large multinational organization. And in my preparation for that session, I was just trying to understand terminology, AI terminology, and it's a bit rustic, but written on this sheet of paper are 39 different terms. Now, I've been told that there are probably 139 different terms, but I found 39 terms all related to AI. And when you look at some of these things, algorithms, chatbots, cognitive computing, emergent behavior, hyperparameters, hallucinations, NLP, neural network. I mean, it is really confusing for the normal lay business person. What on earth does all of that mean? And I think this is in itself a problem, that those who are making decisions in organizations as to how to improve the customer experience, do they even understand what all of this is? You know, we hear about descriptive AI, generative AI. What is it that we need to understand that will help us to improve touch points in the customer journey? Because we need to have a basic understanding of the principle here. Now, I am a technophobe. I must be completely authentic about this. I am not an AI specialist by any stretch of the imagination. But what I do know is that the ability of machines to interpret information quickly, accurately, in a way that would take me days, months, maybe longer, is not in doubt. Already we can see that AI can help us to understand information in a much more effective manner. And so if we are going to improve touch points in the customer journey, what we need is for that intelligence, that machine intelligence, to interpret all of the information we have to help us very quickly identify where it is that we're having a negative impact on customer perception, but also where it is that we are spending lots of money, potentially unnecessarily. When we think about the things that our people are doing every day, so much of what our people do, they shouldn't necessarily have to do. But where do we get the facts, the information that helps us to understand that? And as I say, trying to do that manually is really very difficult. It's complicated. But if AI can start to produce a number of arrows pointing us to where the opportunities are, to where the pain points are, to where those restrictions on our ability to do the right thing for the customer exist, what we're able to do is understand much more quickly what it is we need to focus on to have the greatest impact on improving customer perception and, as a result, financial performance. So the key message here is that this is as much about understanding how to improve the experience for the customer by taking pain away, but at the same time, improving the productivity of our employee by removing unnecessary activity that could be resolved artificially using AI. And I think this, for me, is hugely exciting, because too many organizations at the moment spend too much time trying to find the problem. And as a result, they spend very little time fixing the problem. What I want to see as a result of AI adoption is that turning on its head, that we can almost immediately identify what the problem is, so we can focus all of our attention on fixing the problem. Change management is the key here. AI, in my opinion, will better enable change management.
I guess exactly, I totally agree with you. This is exactly where we need specialists or specialists like you to help us understand, or especially for smaller companies who have been given this task, CX leaders have been given the task, hey, try to figure out how to put this AI into your new product. And these people are scared. Same thing, 39 new terms, never heard of them. How do I implement it? And will it even bring some positive change? And where we should take it strategically rather than taking it direct to the market. Totally agree with you.
The key, Manab, is I think we have to recognize that we're all being bombarded with messages, bombarded by the media, but also bombarded by so many tech companies. The existing legacy tech providers. They may be a customer of a big software company. They're telling them this is what you need to do, and then there are a whole plethora, millions of smaller AI companies telling them you need to do that. And it's so overwhelming. It's like, well, what am I doing? And so I think we have an opportunity to remind people that it isn't AI that is going to drive the decision of what you need to do. And what I mean by that is you need to be very clear strategically, what do you need AI to achieve for you? It's not let's get AI. It's what do we need to be able to achieve, and how can AI help us to do it? And if that is all about understanding what does our customer journey look like, and how can AI help me to determine what I need to fix in it, because if I fix it, it will make my customers really happy and it will save me lots of money. Perfect. That's what I need. Then I need someone to tell me, how do I put that in place? And we need to be really simple in our thinking here, because it's about how to operationalize AI. That is the key.
Agreed. The ultimate aim should be to create positive experiences with that new technology instead of the negative
Exactly.
one. Turn them out.
Exactly.
Cool. Moving on to our second question. Have you seen some real life world examples of companies that have successfully implemented AI to improve their customer experience, and what were key factors contributed to this success?
So it's a really interesting question, because I don't know is the answer to that question. I think without knowing exactly what organizations are doing, I don't know what we're seeing that is AI driven and what we're seeing that isn't AI driven. However, that being said, I think that many of us have been on the receiving end of AI driven experiences for a long time, because I have no doubt that Amazon has largely been driven by AI. Now, it probably wasn't called AI at the time, but what we've also got to remember is that elements of AI have been used for 20 years and more. Text analytics is a form of AI. This is what I said slightly earlier. Is this really new? I don't think it is. It's just evolved. It's just got smarter. We've just now got into a position where AI isn't just about analyzing text from a voice of the customer survey. AI now has the ability to interpret any data, infinite amounts of data, with everything that we're doing. It is just smarter. And so I think inevitably I am experiencing or seeing things driven by AI. I just don't even know. And that in itself is quite interesting. I think that the challenge, and you may ask me this in one of the other questions, is when we start to feel that the experience is becoming less emotional, less human, that may be a signal that actually what's happening is that more of what we're receiving is driven by AI rather than a human itself. And that is, I suppose, the biggest concern for those of us working in the world of customer experience, because ultimately experiences are all about the way we make people feel. And as I've said for many, many years, experiences are about human to human interaction. And technology is not about eliminating the interaction. It should be seen as a way of better enabling the interaction. And so if AI is being seen as a way of eliminating the human, that is a concern, because I'm yet to believe and yet to be told or shown something that proves to me that AI understands the way we feel and can communicate with us in a way that is on the same emotional level as a human. So I think AI needs to be informed by human emotion. It shouldn't be replacing human emotion.
This is exactly what my next questions are supposed to be. But anyway, I'm going to hit them again. feel free to skip them if you feel like, okay, I'll
Oh, of
answer this
course.
again.
Well,
But
it's sort of answering this question to a point,
mhm,
because like most of these things, it's how do we define personalization? I think anyone that has been very conscious of digital evolution recognizes that to a degree, much of what we do on a day-to-day basis is being personalized. You just need to have a conversation with someone in a restaurant about, I don't know, I'm buying a new carpet for my home. And suddenly your social media feed is full of carpets. So to a degree, we know that our world is being personalized, but to a degree without our consent. And I think that's a very, very scary prospect for many people. Do we want to feel as though we're being spied on? Now, I'm a realist. I think at the end of the day, our data is out there, and we can try as much as we want to protect it. But I think ultimately, there are always going to be ways of whoever it is accessing our information. But I think for me, those who want to grow sustainably, and what I mean by that is develop a relationship with the customer. So ultimately, that relationship develops over time to be stronger and stronger. They are the ones who will grow sustainably. And if that's going to happen, we need to be confident that the way our information is being utilized to benefit us. We're not being used, so to speak, but the information that they're gathering from us is being used to help make our lives simpler, better. And when you look at Amazon, I make no excuse for talking a lot about Amazon. Amazon proved 20 years ago that they could actually generate information for the customer in a retail setting that would provide the customer with things that were relevant to them, and it worked, because it made our lives easier. So I think personalization is a hugely important topic, but personalization is also something that we need to think of within an organization as well. And what I mean by that is I'm seeing an increasing number of technology providers introducing AI into their solutions. And there is a growing concern from companies that if AI is being used by a platform to help a client, how can you ensure that what you're learning from me and my customers isn't also being used to help someone else's customers, if that makes sense? So
that
I think there is a real worry as to how can you separate AI learning. So if you're capturing data from one, you're not then using that to help another competitor to deliver better experiences themselves. Does that make sense?
that does. So I also have this question. Customers expect brands or companies to provide personalized experiences. Because supposedly I'm coming to your website for the second time. Don't ask me the same
Yes.
question. What's your phone number? What's your email address? But then there's again this thing where don't take my phone number, don't store my information. In a way, customers are asking us to provide personalized experiences, but in other way through CCPA
Yes.
or something, and like they are saying, don't take my data. How do companies
It
manage this
to
expectation?
me, it's all about setting expectation. In hospitality, arguably, this has been done for years. So there is an expression in hospitality called unanticipated needs, where if you go to a Ritz-Carlton, the Ritz-Carlton is observing what a customer does, and they are recording everything in their CRM. So the next time that customer visits a Ritz-Carlton, they know what brand of gin the customer likes to drink. They know the type of pillow that the customer wants in their room. And they already have those things there before the customer even arrives, because they're anticipating that if a customer asks for something once, they'll ask again. Now, in a luxury environment, that seems to work very effectively. But I think there is an expectation that that's going to happen. For me, personalization should come in line with the setting of expectation. So we're very clear with our customers that we want to make this experience personal to you. But if you don't want us to, then just tell us. But that takes courage, because it comes back to what I said earlier, is what's the motivation behind AI? Is it to just make as much money as possible? In which case, I don't care what my customer thinks. I'm just going to capture it. Well, there is an overused expression in marketing called the marketing funnel, where you pour lots of customers in and customers fall out the bottom. If you want that principle to continue, capture data and use it, not necessarily at the will of your customer, but you'll just keep losing people. I think we need to balance the power that AI has to deliver personal experiences with delivering authentic experiences, and demonstrate to our customers that we're only going to do this for your benefit, but if you don't want us to, we won't do it. And that's what I would love to see.
Got it. Totally makes sense. When you talked about the CRM hospitalities, the hospital organizations they keep, not the hospitals, but the hospitality
Yes.
sector. I saw this series on Apple TV called as Acapulco. They're based on a hotel.
Yes.
What they do is they mentioned Book of Secrets. Every hotel has its Book of Secrets.
Absolutely.
Every customer's needs are written down and they would use it whenever necessary.
You can't remember everything, and if you're just trying to remember mentally, you're not going to. Our brains, I heard someone say recently, we can only remember around 150 interpersonal relationships at any one time. So you can't remember everything, but what if we can utilize AI to remind us?
Yeah, the note taker.
Well, why not? Because that's exactly what it can do. And that's the power. We've now got voice AI tools that, it can be capturing the conversation and then just providing you with a summary. I mean, that's just genius. It just saves us so much time. And I think that this is why I will keep stressing this is as much about improving productivity as it is delivering better experiences.
Totally agreed. Cool. So moving on to our next question. What are the potential risks or challenges associated with using AI for customer experiences, and how can businesses mitigate these risks?
So without question, I believe that if the motivation for adopting AI is to cut cost and save money, and that is the sole motivation, then organizations actually will make experiences worse. What we've seen over the last 20 to 30 years, even before we were talking about AI, is organizations literally throwing digital technology at the customer experience without knowing what the experience is. And they've been doing that because there is a belief that this technology will enable us to eliminate people, save lots of money, and do things quicker. Okay. But what unfortunately we see is that if you throw technology at the customer journey without understanding it, you will almost certainly make the experience for your customers worse. And an example that I've used for many years now is Starbucks. For years, Starbucks had a problem with queuing time. Queuing time in many of their stores, particularly in the morning, because people want to get a coffee on their way to work. And their solution to the problem was just to introduce on their app the ability to pay and order the coffee online before you arrive at the store. Okay. But they did that initially without understanding the end-to-end customer journey and without understanding the end-to-end process. Because whilst in principle, giving the customer the ability to pay, so order and pay before they arrive at the store, eliminates the queue outside the store. But what they didn't realize when they did this is that the baristas would not be able to make the coffees quickly enough. So all they actually did was move the queue from one part of the journey to another part of the journey, because what happened is people arrived at the store thinking the drink would be ready and it wasn't. So they now had angry customers inside the store, even more unhappy than they were before, because they thought the drink would be ready, because their expectation had been increased. So the simple answer to this story is, if AI is going to be effective, we cannot start with the AI, throw it at our processes, and hope that customers get what they get. What we've got to do is start with the customer journey and then understand how can AI enable us to better deliver processes that will leave customers feeling the way we want them to feel.
From what I understand, what you're saying again and again is that use AI to craft experiences which are better instead of looking at printing coins or money.
Exactly.
Money will
that's
flow
why
in if you're providing a good
it will
experience.
always come back to the journey. You know, customer journey mapping has had a bit of a bad reputation in recent times because many organizations have obsessed with mapping journeys, but they've obsessed with mapping journeys without really knowing what to do with it. You know, my argument is that you have to know what the journey looks like in its current state, because whether organizations like it or not, it is that journey that is bringing the experience to life for customers right now. And what you need to then determine, knowing what the journey looks like, is how can AI help you to improve it? How can AI help you to eliminate pain points? How can AI help you to improve the interaction with customers so it starts to exceed their expectation? How can you improve the process for your people so actually a lot of the non-value added activity is taken away from them?
Agreed. So one of the best customer experiences when you get that experience even before asking it, right? So my next question is, in what ways can AI help businesses anticipate and address customer needs before they arise? How can
Okay.
organizations utilize AI to capture these needs?
Now, this is a huge opportunity for me. I preach a lot about the fact that organizations have been measuring the customer experience for years, but measuring it badly. And it would take me far too long, Manab, to tell you all of the reasons why now. But one of the problems is that organizations have relied almost entirely on input that they're getting from VOC, Voice of the Customer surveys. As all of anyone listening to this will know, we've been bombarded with requests for feedback for many years now. But almost all decisions that are being made to improve the experience are being made from information we're getting from these surveys that we are pushing to customers. Okay. What is often missed is the fact that very, very few customers complete those surveys. What I call the silent majority don't tell you anything from those surveys. What
Agreed.
we have failed to do globally is effectively balance solicited feedback through surveys with unsolicited feedback. The plethora of information that is being left publicly without any influence out there in the ether online, on review sites, on TripAdvisor, you know, all of this information about our experiences that we're just ignoring to a degree. In addition to that, every single day, customers are phoning us, emailing us, telling us things in interactions that, again, unless it's being collated in some way, we're not utilizing that to help us understand what is it that is the problem. So for me, probably the biggest opportunity of all is to leverage AI to bring together all sources of customer feedback, not just solicited, but unsolicited, in a way that the human could never do. We have not got enough capacity to be able to digest all of that information, but AI can. AI can tell us immediately, this is what people are saying. And it is that we should be using to prioritize what we should be focusing on. And that's where I'm really, really excited to see AI helping us to get much smarter in driving change.
Got it. And one of the reasons people have stopped responding to surveys is because they know no action is going to be taken on my feedback.
Well,
So,
the likelihood is it isn't. And, again, some of the reasons for that are that the motivation behind a VOC survey very often, sadly, is not the feedback. It's the score. What organizations want is a score. So, but that is the organization thinking about what it wants, not
mhm.
thinking about what the customer wants. And so again, it's this conflict between businesses requiring certain things, but then forgetting that what they should be doing is thinking and acting in the interests of the customer. So for me, that can still happen. But what AI should give us, as I say, the opportunity to do is to really nail down where it is that the action needs to be taken, so we then take it. But what I said right at the beginning of this conversation is I am hoping that AI will redistribute our work pattern. So instead of spending all of our time capturing information and trying to understand the information, we can switch to using our people to deliver change. That's what needs to happen. Ultimately, too many organizations have failed to change anything. And so for many of us, experiences today are not radically different to how they were 20 years ago. In some countries, experiences are getting worse because our expectation is going up, but nothing's changing. So actually, we're getting more and more dissatisfied with what we're on the receiving end of. So this, for me, it's not the golden bullet, but that's the direction the golden bullet is going in. Give us that information, AI, and then we can go and start taking action.
Got it. Cool. Okay, moving on to our next question. Let me quickly share my screen and so that our audiences can see this. Okay, what role do human oversight and intervention play in AI-driven customer experiences? And how can businesses ensure that the human touch is not lost?
Yeah,
The thing that you were just mentioning, the human touch, how do we ensure
absolutely.
that is still
It's
kept
such an
intact?
important question. And as I said, experiences are about human to human interaction. I was with a client recently, and uh, uh, I partner with a customer journey management platform, and they were being given a demonstration as to how this works. And from the conversation, we were just talking about who are your customers? Tell us a bit about your customers. And from that conversation, AI created a customer persona. I mean, it was just, I mean, I've not seen it done before. It was just remarkable. Just from a 10-minute conversation, it generated a customer persona. And the people in the room were then asked, read it, read that persona and tell us, is it accurate? And people in the room said it was about 70% accurate. Okay. And what's interesting is that it was 70% accurate from a 10-minute conversation, but it needed human validation. It needed the human to ensure that the information was being interpreted in the right way. And I think, again, I am not smart enough to know, will AI get to the point where it can feel what we feel? I don't know. Personally, I'd find that difficult to believe, but anything is possible. But I think what AI will do is it will do the grunt work. It will do the majority of the work that would take us too long to do. But what we need then is for the human to ensure that what we're reading, what we're creating, what we're identifying makes sense. I think it is going to be the case for a long time going forward that the human has to rationalize that what the machine is interpreting is an accurate reflection of the truth. And ultimately, any technology is being overseen by a human. And so we need the human to understand, where is the technology being pointed to? We mustn't allow ourselves to get lazy. And I think that is a concern I have, is that we will get lazy and we will just see AI as giving us all the answers. but we won't check it. We won't validate it. And that's when we'll start to make mistakes. We need to make sure that what AI is telling us is accurate and that is absolutely in line with the emotion that our customers are going through.
And these checks have to be instant, right? The moment AI is giving an answer, there has to be checker at the moment, right at the moment.
Absolutely.
It becomes too late. That person takes an action on the given answers by the AI chat, but something wrong happens. And
it's a dangerous thing to do, you know, and I think it will happen. I think we will, if we were doing this in 2 years' time, Manab, we will probably be able to cite examples of where that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can't, you know, that we cannot just rely on the machine to do everything for us. The machine will take away the hard work that ultimately would take us months to do, but it is the human that needs to make the decision. That I think that's the best way to define it.
Totally agree with you. One example which I've read before is it was Toyota maybe in the United States, where someone went to a chatbot on this website and bought a car for $1. The chatbot
Yes,
sold the car for $1.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, and that gets people to wake up very quickly. But
Yeah.
you know, we don't want too many of those mistakes to happen.
Totally agreed. Cool. Moving on to our next question, and we are coming close to our last few questions. What are some common pitfalls to avoid when integrating AI into customer experience strategies?
So I think that the key here is customer experience strategies. And what I mean by that is it may or may not surprise you to know that the majority of organizations around the world still don't have a customer experience strategy. Okay. And that is the pitfall, because conversely, most organizations for a long time now have had a digital strategy. And I suspect that most still do have a digital strategy, of which AI is now a part. So once again, we're in a situation where it's very possible, very likely, that we've got a strategy in place for AI, but we don't actually know what we want the experience for our customers to be. And that's the danger. Okay. It is vital that we develop a clear sense of what we want the experience for our customers to be, what I call the desired or intentional experience. That customer experience strategy needs customer insight for it to be created. So AI can help us to evolve and validate the customer experience strategy. But having determined what we want the strategy to be, a key part of that strategy is a definition of how we want our customers to feel every time they interact with us. Okay. Now, if we haven't defined that, the organization fundamentally will not know. It will not have a common understanding of the way it wants its customers to feel. So if you're then throwing AI at the customer journey without knowing how you want the customer to feel, the likelihood is you will leave customers feeling a way you don't want them to feel. So we need to ensure that that strategy is in place, and everything that happens needs to be pointing to that strategy. And just to be clear, the customer experience strategy sits alongside the business strategy. You know, it's not different. It's not totally separate. It is critical that what we want for the customer aligns to what we want for the business. But, you know, if anyone is watching this thinking, I don't know what our customer experience strategy is, the likelihood is you don't have one. And that, as I say, is then dangerous. If you're going to start introducing things that will have an impact on the way the customer feels, but you haven't even defined what you want that to be, then you can make things worse.
I think one of the main problem with organizations at the smaller organizations like ours is it's the biasness. Sometimes what happens is we release a new feature or any new software update. What we do is we ask our employees within our own team,
Yes.
hey, check out how does it feel, and that person knows exactly how does it feel. But we need unbiased answers where most of the organizations fail, and that's where CX
absolutely. And you know, we end up doing things that we want, not doing things that our customers want, you know, and it sounds so obvious, but you're right. You know, you can't necessarily ensure that you're thinking through the lens of your customer when you're making those decisions. And we've all got targets to hit and KPIs to focus on. And if we're making those decisions thinking about business KPIs, then the risk is that we are not going to improve customer perception.
Got it. Awesome. Cool. Okay, moving on to our next question, which is for new people who are getting into CX, what advice do you have for businesses looking to start or improve their AI-driven customer experience initiatives?
So my advice is the following. I very intentionally call myself a specialist, not an expert, a specialist, because I don't like the word expert. Expert suggests that I know everything. And with regards to customer experience, it's such a broad discipline. No one will ever know anything. And my role is to never stop learning. Every day, every week, every month, every year, I learn something new about the way customer experience is being developed around the world. And all of us have our own specialisms. And I believe that if we are going to start introducing AI more strategically into the way our organizations work, we need to rely on the specialisms of those who understand it. If someone comes to me, a client comes to me and says, "What about AI, Ian?" I'll give them my perspective, but the first thing I will do is connect them to a specialist in AI. I think it's really important that you have the confidence to speak to those who understand how it works. But I would argue that that might be someone that is independent, someone that is not already a technology provider of yours, but an independent resource that has a clear understanding of the landscape, a clear understanding of the best direction for you to go in. It is a minefield, as we said at the beginning, and we're being so overwhelmed with information. You just need to speak to someone who can just give you the reality in language that you understand. If you're communicating with anyone that it just makes you feel overwhelmed, stop. That would be my really serious advice. Speak to someone, an independent specialist in AI, who can direct you in the way that you need. That would be what I would suggest.
And what are your takes on CX leaders on getting close to the technologies? Like, obviously, AI is going to evolve more and more, and with each passing day, do you think they
I
should
think personally, I think again, it depends how you define CX leader, but CX leaders should be focused on alignment, creating organizational alignment. And one of the things that I teach is the need for us to understand our customer experience operating model. Okay. And the customer experience operating model is a simplistic way of me talking about the layers, organizational layers that deliver all experiences. The top layer are your customer journeys. Now, all organizations have always had a customer journey, but there are still some who don't actually even know that. Many have only realized that in recent times. The second layer are business processes, which obviously represent the things that your people do every day. Organizations have known about process for decades. It's not a new concept. The problem is that most organizations created and implemented those processes without knowing there was a customer journey. So what most organizations did when they were created is put the processes in place, and very few have changed them. The journey is changing all the time, but our processes have stayed the same. So if you try to underpin the journey with everything that you and your colleagues do every day, you'll have the realization they don't align, and then it gets even worse when you get to the third layer, the technology layer. Because like process, most organizations bought, designed, and implemented technology without knowing there was a customer journey. And so what most have done historically and are still doing to this day is they're putting the technology in place, forcing processes into it, and customers get whatever they get. The CX leader has the opportunity to change this. The CX leader should be educating the organization that we shouldn't start with the technology and work upwards through those layers. We should be starting with the journey and working downwards through those layers, so we can better understand what technology we need that will better enable our processes to do what the customer needs us to do. For me, the CX leader is not necessarily a technology specialist. They don't need to know what the technology is. What they need to know is that if technology is being put in place, how it is going to better enable the process to do what the customer needs it to do. We need to be challenging. Why are you doing this? How is it going to improve the customer journey? You know, today, that doesn't happen enough. I think it is more driven by the technologists being told, you need to put that in. 10 years ago, people would say to me, we need an app. Well, why? Well, because we just need one. Our competitor has one. So well, how is that going to improve the customer journey? Oh, I don't know. Well, what do you need it for then? You know, so I think we have got that role to play in establishing the journey as a living, breathing organism, so that every decision being made, we know how it's going to impact that journey, how it's either going to improve customer perception and have an impact on revenue in the long term, or how it's going to improve productivity and eliminate unnecessary activity and save money in the short term.
Got it. From what I understand, we should take the top-down process, think what the
Correct.
impact would be, and then fit in the technology where exactly it would fit in.
Correct. Exactly.
Got it. Cool. This is my last questions before I open the floor to the audience. I think we came across this question at the starting. We started with the same question: what are the emerging trends and innovations in the field of AI for customer experience that businesses should be aware of and prepare for?
So the only thing I'll add to everything else we've said, I use the example of a customer persona being generated using AI. But what is very, very exciting right now is that we are now able to generate the customer journey itself using AI. Already, the organization that I collaborate with is called Semantica, this customer journey management platform. From your data, from your CRM, from your VOC surveys, it can, using AI, create the customer journey and identify where the pain points in that journey are. Now, historically, that would have to be done. I say historically, it's still being done like this today. You would have to map the journey manually. You would have to validate it. I mean, you're talking days, weeks, months of work. That can now happen almost instantly. And I think one of the challenges that we faced as a CX profession over the last few years is that leaders see customer experiences, lots of workshops, sort of lots of theory, lots of nice sounding things that we can't connect it to ROI. You know, now with this introduction of AI to essentially do what would take us months with the click of a button, we can now focus on where the ROI is going to come from. And I said right at the very beginning, that means we can now focus on what needs to change. Not what does this all look like, but what needs to change. And that, I think, it will revolutionize the way CX is perceived by leadership. It's been too much about what, not enough about how, and delivering real change. And that, for me, is what, it's already there. And if your organization hasn't seen it yet, that's where you need to be focusing very, very quickly.
So, Ian, what would be your ultimate definition for a good customer experience, or what would you define a customer experience?
So the way I would answer that is that a good customer experience is one that leaves your customer feeling the way that they want to feel. Okay. And customers will feel one of three things from all interactions. They'll feel very good things, they'll feel very bad things, or they will feel nothing at all. And what we want is for customers to remember their experience for the right reason. You know, interestingly, customers that remember nothing about their experience, it's actually the worst of those three emotional states, because there's no emotional connection between you and your customer. Because even if something goes badly wrong, you've got the opportunity to correct it, so your customer remembers the way you corrected it. So for me, a great experience is one that the customer remembers for the right reason. That is the really simple way of describing it. If you ask your customer, what do you remember? What are they likely to say?
Got it. From what I understood, like I'll just added like a bad experience is better than a no experience.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily,
So
but you want to correct it in the future.
people have often said to me, should we intentionally get it wrong? No. But we've got to recognize it does not matter how customer focused you are, things will always go wrong. And your ability to correct those things actually can be a differentiator. But yeah, don't intentionally make it go wrong. But it's that again silent majority that don't tell you anything. That is where the bigger opportunity comes from.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, that's the biggest problem with every organization and
Absolutely.
institutions out there. Cool. So I am done for all the questions that I had prepared for this session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the session up for our audiences. If they have any question, they can drop in their question at the chat section.
And all I would say, Manab, as people are thinking if they have a question, if anyone has had enough of listening to me now, but thinks of a question later, reach out to Manab, to the Communicate team, and I will get back to you later. I'm very happy to respond if anyone has any question they would like to ask.
Yeah, surely. What I'll do is I'll put our email address for people to drop in their questions. Cool. I think we are not getting any more questions. I think that would be all for our session today. Ian, thank you so much for taking the time out today. Really appreciate it. The insights you shared are really something new for me, and I really learned something new today, which I'll definitely share with the teams who are going forward, and we'll definitely use it forward.
Fantastic. Well, it's such a pleasure. As I say, I love talking about this subject, and thank you so much for asking me to be part of this. And I hope that anyone listening to it has found it useful as well.
Yeah, and special thanks to Ian for taking out not just for Communicate, but he shares his knowledge with all the organizations whenever he gets a chance to share his experiences, which are new. Thanks for taking the torch or bearing the torch here, Ian.
It's such a pleasure. Yeah. And I hope to be able to speak to you at some point again in the future.
Definitely. Definitely. And thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Manab. Thank you, everyone. Bye.